I'm Greg with Power Pole. I just want to show you what our trolling motor is capable of. We just want to give you the confidence that you know if you get in, you can get out with our trolling motor. Pulling this big 20-foot skeeter boat, going through the cattails, the matted up mother-in-law tongues. Our trolling motor runs on just about everything but dry ground. Most trolling motors.
ABT Live 45. It's been 10 episodes since I've been able to rhyme it that good.
Well done.
Welcome to ABT Live. My name's Steve Morgan. This is...
Nicole, how you going?
Nicole is the one who actually puts all of this show together. I sit at the front normally taking the glory, but this time we've got to back out in front of the camera. You're not feeling under the weather this week, or not as much as last time. This is how you do sound checks on what's happening on ABT Live. So Nicole actually is mixing it all together, made the run sheet, making sure YouTube works, making sure Facebook works, making sure the Australian Open happens next week, make sure Hawkesbury happens next week.
Simple.
And I'll make the cups of tea. That's how it works in this office. As usual, we got some prizes tonight. Let's get straight into it. I have pinched some of the leftover products that we had for the Atomic round of the Bass Pro Series on the Richmond River last week. Plenty of Atomic Vibe 60s in 5 different colours. And some braids, some 15 and 33 pound braids. So there's a good, $150 worth of gear there, maybe more. Tell us where you're watching from. Doesn't matter if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Tell us where you're from and Nicole will randomly, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, find someone to send that to, so long as you're in Australia. There's always the Mike Sutcliffe lecture. Mike, you come, I'm going to send it to you in Singapore.
No, that's true.
All about the brim this week, Nicole.
It is, but I thought let's start by talking about where we've just come from, because we've just had another massive couple weeks on the road in northern New South Wales.
Yeah, it was the 13 fishing Bass Pro Series rounds. First one was on the Clarence, where it fished reasonably tough, probably the toughest that I've seen the Clarence fish in modern history. I think we hit it a couple of days early because a few days later, when that same rain affected the Richmond we hit, man, it was red hot. Over 8 kilo limit leading it on day one. 50 centimetre class fish coming in, everything eating top orders. It was boom. It was everything a bass fisherman likes on a river that everyone was wah on about 2 weeks before. Oh, you got to cancel. Oh, the whole of Lismore's floating down the river. Oh, it's going to be shit. It wasn't shit. It was good.
No, very fishy event, and thanks to our sponsors. We mentioned Maui Gym for the Clarence rounds, and then the crew at Atomic really got behind us at the Richmond round. They threw a pizza party for everyone at Casino Outdoors. You had to get in quick because
hungry basses,
hungry bass fishermen skipping lunch that day. So thanks to Michael, Starkey and the crew at Frogley's as well for everything they do.
And how good were those 2 ABT member retailers, Grafton Firearms and Fishing Tackle, the world's biggest maze of a store with so much good stuff in it, and Casino Outdoors and Disposals, 2 great ABT stores. I know that they said the ABT guys spent a fair bit when they were in there, and I'm one of them. I'm buying all sorts of things in there. Love the specials bins, love the new stuff that's in there. But 2 great briefing venues, 2 great rivers. It was great. Like all the guys at the Atomic round got some lines, they got a lipless crankbait, they got a sticker for their boat and a cap, and if they had the sticker on their boat and they were the highest placed person with the sticker on their boat, it was another $1,000 from Michael Starkey. Bit of a side story to that too. It was supposed to be a $1,000 voucher, but I gave $1,000 cash, so sorry Michael, it cost you more money than you expected to spend. Bad luck, you got plenty of it.
He's a good sport though.
Non-boaters as well.
Non-boaters got $500 for wearing their Atomic caps.
In the glory photos?
In the glory photos. So no, when Michael gets some sponsors around, he really sponsors around.
It's like that. So yeah, it was a great... anyone that doesn't like fishing rivers hasn't fished them, because how good is it? I haven't finished cutting the highlights up yet. Like, they'll happen at some stage soon, but I've got so much good footage, especially in the Richmond. Everything's on top water. Frogs mainly, but top water plastics, just people skipping frogs into the darkness, and you just hear that. And then next minute there's a bass in the boat. It's really, really cool.
few more guys have added their names to the grand final qualifiers list out of those events.
Yeah, so it was Tegan Heath. Good to see Tegan. He's only got about a 40 or 50 horsepower on his little snapper fishing boat, and he went down to McLean Reef there, stuck in a spot, won himself, what was it, $3,500.
Mm-hmm.
Whole family was there to collect.
Yeah, there's a great photo on the ABT website. The kiddies took that big check and they've run with it.
Now, Mick Johnson won the Richmond, but he's won before. So second place was Dylan Walsh, who gets himself an instant qualification to the grand final. Non-boater side.
Young Harry.
Harry Schofield, bass events. One shot, one kill.
It was his first bass round. Harry just started working over with the crew at Rapala earlier this year. Decided to jump in the back of the boat at the close Clarence round.
And how good was it?
Simple.
Timmy the boss, if you win the prizes, you've got to give them away. So he won all these Rapala prizes, and they got given to all the other non-boaters there. So rods, reels, lines, lures, the whole lot. CH. You got to keep the $250 Rapala bonus for wearing his work shirt.
Yep. But no, he's very excited for the grand final. Another new non-boater that we've seen this year, Chris Rawlings.
Yeah, it came last at the Clarence, or last of the guys that caught fish at the Clarence, and then first at the Richmond, just smashed it. And great interview. We got the interviews up on our socials, so you can hear how he did it. Did it with a discontinued Storm crankbait mainly, and a rushy 10-foot deep. Everyone's digging through their boxes saying, "Where's one of those things now?" I know Timmy said he bought like 50 of them for $2 each when they were on special at the end of the run. So good to see the winners from those Bass Pro events. Great couple of events. River events are always going to be on the agenda for ABT rounds because we think to win AOY you've got to be good in dams and good in rivers.
Like just talking about Chris Rawlings as well, I think we need to do a special shout out to Dane Price. I think Dane needs our official HR recruitment.
Yeah, he brings a lot in, doesn't he?
He does.
He's got a history of bringing people in
as non-boaters,
as nonnies, and guys like Tim Jones have turned into boaters, and then they kick his ass. So Dan, it's not working for you at the moment, but I'm sure this long-term plan will pay off.
So no, appreciate Dane and all our boaters that bring along new competitors to the sport. It's awesome when we see it growing. Yep,
and as I said, the highlights I've collected all the footage now. I've just got to find time in the edit queue to get those edits done up. There's plenty of cool stuff to happen. May happen before the Open, may not happen before the Open. It's been a pretty busy. It's been a busy couple of. I got back from the Bass and we may have snuck up with Rapala to do some secret squirrel barra filming.
Oh, that's where you've been.
That's where I've been.
Oh.
And you'll see the results of that at maybe the after show this year. So it's planting seeds now for stuff that's happening a long way down the track.
The weekend just gone by, we didn't, ABT went west. The guys over at Water, big shout out to them. They've picked up an event kit from us and went and ran the Albany round for our Brim series. That was a Zip Baits sponsored round. Zip Baits, talking about Froglies and Michael Starkey. He took that brand on toward the end of last year.
Yep.
And brought it on board as a sponsor of ABT for this year. So Zip Baits at Albany, another couple of great winners. Adam Amos, first time jumped in the boat. He lives on the East Coast, doesn't he?
I don't know much about Adam, actually. All I know is he won some money at and beat Cromo over in WA. And the events that we set up to qualify West Australians into the grand final, East Coasters, you reckon it. They're not getting in. Although lots of WA guys are doing well because they travel east. I think in the non-boaters,
AOY. In the non-boaters especially, we'll get into that. But then we had Blake Littlelow, who is a WA local. He took out the non-boaters division over there. So.
And the award for the best mow on the weekend.
Yes. So yeah, those winners, all the winners' interviews from the Bass and the Brim rounds, all up on our socials. You can find them on the Facebook page. All the results from all those events on the ABT websites. It's been a busy last couple of weeks.
So now, Bass Angler of the Year. Let's talk about some AOY stuff. Bass AOY is getting interesting now. We're 4 events in, and the where have we got? I got Brim there. Let's pull up Bass. I should have been prepared here.
Let's start with the non-boaters for Bass.
Okay, let's start with nonnies.
So we've got that there, still sitting at the top of the table, Corey Goldie. He was leading after the Victorian rounds. He's still sitting at the top there after the couple of New South Wales events, but sneaking up into second place now is Jake Hardy.
Yep.
And then Barry
4 top
Reynolds.
10s, Jake Scott. Does not do outside top 10.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. I think no one's got a huge lead there. 3 points.
And the way the Bass AOY works, 6 events, your best 4 counts. So going forward now, if the guys are fishing more than 4 events, they can drop their worst event. So Corey's worst is 86, Jake's worst is about 92. So yeah, the mathematics becomes a little bit convoluted as the season goes on, but I guarantee the guys know exactly what's needed. The guys that actually have a vested interest in it. So there you go. From the non-boater side, Corey is doing his gap year as a noddy this year, and he's doing pretty well from the back of the boat. But man, in the boaters, she's tight. We interviewed Braden Shue as AOY leader in the last show. He's not leading now, but it's pretty freaking close still.
Yeah, I think it's anyone's game, which is going to make it really exciting to see not just Somerset, but that final round at Wivenhoe.
Yep.
I think that will be the decider.
Of course, Coney's got 4 top 10s there, including a win. Braden has second, 7th, but then a 17th. So he's got he might only be less than 10 points behind, but he's got if he gets a top 10, he picks up a lot of points. So that maths comes into it again. Mick Johnson won 2 events. He's had a first, it looks like a 5th, and a shocker. So he will get rid of the shocker and come up and contend. Yeah, it's going to be... They'll come around the final bend, it'll all be neck and neck coming into that last event. And Wivenhoe is the last event, isn't it? So it's probably a bit of a mystery to all of those guys. And it's one of those lakes where if you go the wrong way, everything's up in smoke. Like Wivenhoe, you can go the wrong way for 2 hours of idling and catch nothing, or you can go 5 minutes the right way and catch... 5 fish for 10 kilos. That's how it works.
It's going to be fun. So we'll have to wait till the end of August to see how that one all plays out. So watch that space. Would
all right.
Let's go. To look at Brim?
Yeah, let's go back. I was organised. I had Brim up on the screen there. But also in the Brim, it's a race. It's not... Last year at this stage, if you had the points that anyone in the top 3 or 4 had, you would be a runaway leader. There is no such thing as a runaway leader at the moment.
So let's start with non-boaters.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So Jono Fitzgibbon, he has been doing the miles this year. He's done every round. So we've got 3 guys. Again, with the Brim, it's your best 5 events. So we're starting to get a few anglers that have done their 5 events for the season, can start to drop stuff. Jono Fitzgibbon is having an awesome year.
Well, he's ramping it up.
Gippsland Lakes, he's worked it out.
Yep.
And then Michael Samet and Bill Bland, a couple of WA anglers that have done the miles so far this season.
Yep. And look, it's again, you've got Jono's got 1, 2, 3 top 10s and a couple of down the fields. Michael Samet's got 2 top 10s at 88 and a couple of down the field. So again, the last 3 events of the year are going to make a big difference with all of these tables because Michael Samet can throw out he's thrown out a 39, but then he can throw out a 75, and then Jono Fitzgibbon can throw out a 76, so there's lots of potential for moving upwards in those scores. So
and just looking at we've got the Hawkesbury coming up, I don't think those WA guys are on the list to do that, so that's going to start to wiggle some stuff around.
Yeah, some of the East Coasters might start making a little bit of a comeback. 2 of the top 3 WA guys. You never know till the end. They might be looking at the scoreboard. Oh, I'm going to make a sneaky trip to Ballina and the Tweed River. That's how it works. You got boaters sneaking across the WA, getting some points.
We do. Let's talk about boaters. So,
best 5.
Best 5 again. And Mark Crompton is the first boater to have reached that 5 event limit. So leading AOY at the moment as we head into the second or the last bit of the season.
Yep.
He's got about 82 odd points on Mark Healey.
Yep.
At the moment.
So if Mark comes in the top 19 at the Hawkesbury and Cromo doesn't improve, he's above him. Or Cromo's got a 77 to throw out of. So again, it's one of those mathematical things. Let's see how it rolls out for the last few events.
But when you look at Mark Crompton, Mark Healey, Peter Brukel, yourself, it's going to be a tight race in there. Yep. And then not to discount the likes of Mario Vukic, he's making the trip up to the Hawkesbury this week. I don't think you can write anyone sort of off in that top half dozen of the field there.
Well, look at that. You've got Joe Gardner, and he's going to fish another WA event. He's got 2 top 10s in there. If Joey has another good WA event, he might just want to sneak over east to give it a shot because he might have a fair chance of AOY as well. So you've got to go down the list a little bit to see what's going to eventuate coming down the track. But, hey, good to see this year every single AOY table, there's a competition there this year. There's no runaway leaders at the moment. So event remaining, Hawkesbury, Blackwood in WA, and the double header up in northern New South Wales, Richmond and the Tweed, which are both running real dirty at the moment, but they'll be good by midwinter.
Yeah, so we get there and we will wrap up that season in July. It's an early bream season for us.
Gives
this year.
everyone a lot of time to prepare for that grand final in Lake Macquarie. The Lake Macquarie with no bridge involved in the arena. We're still deciding whether we're drawing a line upstream of the bridge and you can't fish down, or we're just making an exclusion zone around the bridge and you can fish Salts Bay and some of the cool flats downstream from it. I think it probably will be the latter. But yeah, that grand final is going to be epic this year. When those finals that are close to a city, like this one's close to Sydney, easy to borrow boats for guys. So if you're coming from out of state and you want to borrow a boat, there are a lot of boats in Sydney, a lot of boats on the Central Coast that you may be able to swing alone, especially on a nice, relatively calm place like Lake Macquarie. Don't blow, it's really calm.
Don't forget too, this year the grand finals have got that changed format.
Oh yeah, 3 days
happening.
And a cut.
So bream and bass.
Yep.
3 days, non-boaters will fish day 1 and 2. And then day 3, the boaters will cut that field down to the top 15. So half the boaters
Top
are
half
out.
gone. Second half, yeah, and they have observers, which will be made up of some maybe boaters that aren't fishing or some non-boaters that aren't fishing. We'll find observers and get some really good coverage happening on that last day, because last day of grand finals is where the magic happens.
And it means we don't miss the non-boaters. We get so caught up in who's won the massive boat prize.
And you punt them a tackle box at the end. So yeah, it's a big thing on day 2, the non-boater winner, and then it can be a big thing on the day 3, the boater winner. So yeah, I think everyone's pretty excited about that format moving forwards.
Let's move forward. We've done a lot of looking at what we've been doing. Let's talk about the Bream Australian Open and the Hawkesbury Bream Qualifier coming up. Exciting.
Yep. Hawkesbury in Sydney. It's got a big field at the moment. Over 115 anglers or 120 anglers at the moment.
This afternoon we had another boat enter, so we've got 60 boats, 60 full boats for the Hawkesbury. So that means a bit over $16,000 in prize money to give away.
Yep.
At that event.
And add that to about another 16,000 from the Open. There's over 30,000 bucks cash are going to be given away, plus all the cool prizes. And we're going to talk about that with some of the people that we've interviewed for tonight's show. The Hawkesbury's and Maui Gym sponsored round again. I think one or two of the guys from Maui Gym may be there.
They will. Nathan has put his hand up. He'll be at the briefing with us on the Friday afternoon.
And how cool has their promotion been, where we have all the loaner Maui Gyms? You can come and borrow a set of Maui Gyms, try them on, fish for the day in them, and work out if the frame suits your face. You know, when before have you been able to borrow from a retailer a set of glasses for a couple of days and try them? So you can do it. We've got the normal lenses, the HT lenses, the magnifier lenses.
Yeah, we were lucky. We got added to our collection just before the last couple of bass rounds, the magnifiers. So we've got all 3 strengths as well. And they were the first ones to go.
Yeah, everyone wants to try them out.
Everyone wants to give
I love them. I'm addicted to them now. I can sort of, whenever I go down to tie a knot and I haven't got my magnifiers on, I'm like, oh, I'm still stabbing for that hole in the eyelet with the 2-pound line. So I love them. Nathan
will be there, so anglers at the briefing, come and have a chat to him, talk lenses and.
Oh yeah, you can answer all the questions I make up the answers to. So that's how it works. So there you go.
A reminder too to competitors. In the past, we've had the briefing at the Narrabeen, the Lakeside Holiday Park. We've had to change that just because we've outgrown the little room they have at the caravan park. So make sure you're up to date. It's all on the event sheet. There's a place, the Tram Shed Community Centre at Narrabeen, just on the other side of the bridge.
South side of the bridge.
It's just a bigger venue, lots of parking. Will fit everyone in. So just make sure you go there.
Yeah, don't rock up to the caravan park at 5 o'clock at night and you'll be going tumbleweeds.
We caught up with someone fishing the Hawkesbury event who's not able to fish the Australian Open, didn't we?
Yes, Mr. Mark Healey. It was up until the weekend. He was leading AOY. He won that event on the Hawkesbury last year. He's going to be a dead set weapon there this year, and we caught up with him a little bit earlier today.
Let's cross the interview now.
So up until last weekend, this man was leading the AOY points charge. But what happened? Cromo went and snuck some AOY points over in WA. Mark Healey, welcome to ABT Live.
Steve, Nicole, thanks for having me.
So what do you think about that? Cromo just doing the big miles over to the west and sort of for a guaranteed top 10 finish. What did you think about that?
Yeah. Well, it's quite interesting the way the Angler of the Year points is structured. I'd probably like to see a review of that in the future, where maybe it's catered more to the size of the field,
Yeah.
maybe how many anglers compete, how many anglers that you actually beat, as opposed to the size of the field. And, nothing against our WA competitors by any means. I say it respectfully, but if you're fishing an event with only 10 people, well, you're pretty much guaranteed a top 10, aren't you? So, I think, it's a bit of a cheeky one there. I'd like to think that, I could still be competitive, still in the race without having, without fishing up Albany. But yeah, certainly a few cheeky, easy points there for Mark.
Well, I'll tell you what, I had this planned a couple of years ago. We had a double header in WA, and I did win AOY that year, but none of my WA results counted because I got quadruple donuts over there. So just because you get the points doesn't mean you're going to win AOY. I'm excited this year because there's about 4 or 5 anglers that have got a real hot chance in the second half of the season of winning the trophy. Cromo told me, he goes, I've been in Healy's position before. I've had 2 wins and I've lost it from there. So that's his motivation to keep going hard.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And, no disrespect to Mark either. Even if there's 10 in the field, the way I look at it, the points at the moment, you probably need 5 top 5s. So you certainly need to still perform. Going over there's one thing, but you probably still need to get, a really good result despite the size of the field. So, and you're right in saying, this year does look pretty hotly contested for Angler of the Year. There's probably 4 or 5 guys that are right up there and have got a few good results, and a couple more that going to be red hot favourites. So you got Peter Burkle, I think Mario's a big contender. He's got 2 seconds there, 2.99s. Obviously Cromo, yourself. So there's a lot of really good calibre anglers that are consistent across many venues, and I'm looking at what's left as far as AOI for this year, and you've got the Hawkesbury obviously coming up this year. Then you've got which is the next round. Then you've got Blackwood River in WA, which I'm considering flying over to fish. And then you've got the 2 northern rounds being Richmond, and I think it's Tweed. Again, neither event I've actually fished at those venues. So
no, it's going to be an interesting race. And I think it's put it this way: if this makes you feel better, if it was last year with your results, you'd be like 40 points ahead of the next angler by now. So it's sometimes we see in years when it's hotly contested, all of the top 4 guys have got the points that would have won the year before or the next year. It's just you got to do well when other people are faltering, or at least they're not faltering in all the events. You just need a bad event here or there, because as you know, it comes down to how good is your worst event, not how good is your best event, because everyone ends up with some top 5s. Who shanked a 20th and who shanked a 10th as their worst one. So it's going to be a great race coming through. Now, talking about the Hawkesbury, you won the event last year. You slammed a 5 kilo plus bag on the scales on the last day. It was the start, I think, of that run where everything was going right for you. So coming the full circle a year later, you're still feeling the mojo for the Hawkesbury, considering we've just had a lot of water come down the river.
Yeah, and again, it is very different sort of scenario to last year. Even though it's a similar time of year, that obviously the tides are almost flipped around. The tides are almost opposite to last year's events. Moon phase is opposite to last year's events, and we've obviously had influx of rain and flooding in recent time, which again we didn't see that prior to last year's event. So very different situation this year, and coming into the event, I don't think it'll fish similarly to next year. I think the fish will probably move, push around a little bit. But if you can find the fish generally after a lot of rain, you'll do well. But finding those fish, those concentrations of fish after a big rain event, can be challenging.
I think it's a fantastic venue. I suppose my comment about the Hawkesbury always is there's probably more kilo plus fish in the Hawkesbury river system than in any other river on the east coast of Australia, and that includes Sydney Harbour. I just think that it's one of those places, if you dial it in, a 5 kilo bag isn't uncommon, and that's always shooting you up the leaderboard on the last day.
Yeah, certainly, and I think we'll see that this year, whether we get 5 kilo bags or not. I think people catch big fish and multiple big fish, and I think we'll see, bags in that sort of 4 to 4.5 range pretty consistently.
Yep.
But probably need a little bit more in that range of sort of 9 to 9.5 to take out the event. That's from my prediction anyway.
Well, if it fishes that well, it's justified its reputation as one of the big fish capitals of New South Wales, and we're looking forward to that event. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the grand final coming up, Lake Macquarie. You've instantly qualified for it so many times now, I can't even count anymore. So you're in it. I remember having the discussion with you and Jamie last year about taking the Swansea Bridge out of it. And we've talked about that on ABT Live before. But seeing the field build for the grand final, we've got a couple of Tasmanian guys qualified. It's going to be a quality field in Lake Macquarie, and I think that to make that top 30 anglers to get in there, you're going to have to do pretty well this year. Like, you can't just coast in on 2 or 3 events like maybe some of the less popular venues that we've run out in the past. So I think it's going to be a high quality field on there, and it's the event with the biggest rewards, about a $60,000 boat we're going to be giving away. How are you feeling towards the grand final? I know your last event that you won there, you didn't pre-fish for like a year beforehand. Is that still the case?
Yeah. So, like last year in the ABT qualifier, I pretty much made a commitment to fish the bridge for the 2 days, and it paid off. Not catching a lot of fish, but just quality fish at that particular time of the year. Obviously, with the bridge being out of bounds this in the grand final this year, that I'm not going to be able to do that, which is fine, because I've done well on that venue in the past without fishing the bridge, and it can certainly be one without fishing the bridge, even if the bridge is in the arena as well, as we know, as it has in the past in recent years also. Yep. So I think it does probably even the playing field out a little bit as well. And Lake Macquarie is a very popular fishery, so you're going to have your guys from interstate coming in, and they're going to have a red hot chance just as much as some more local competitors, I believe.
Tell us about, I know at the grand final, it was back maybe in 2017, you dropped a 6 kilo bag on the scales. I think the biggest bag of the whole tournament, not fishing the bridge, you were fishing somewhere else in the lake. Is it too soon to ask what sort of technique did the damage for you then? Was it down deep or up shallow, or, tell us about that day.
Yeah, sure. So it was a three-day event, obviously, and I think the first day bag was only about 2.7 kilos. On probably halfway through the second session, I decided to fish a bit deeper, and ended up with 3.7, I think, roughly on the second day. And then on the third day, I didn't have a lot else left, and I just sort of committed to some fishing, some deeper water, and managed to get, again, not many. I think I caught 6 for the day, but they were the right size fish.
Wow.
And weighed just over 6 kilos on the third day, which was pretty rewarding. However, it wasn't quite enough, but I think any other year, any other time it would have been. But in this particular event, obviously, Graham and Jamie won the bridge and were pretty hard to beat, just not back 5 kilo bags consistently.
It's bittersweet, isn't it? Yeah, catch a 6 kilo bag in a grand final, yes, but it's the only grand final ever that it probably didn't give you the win after the second day. So keep that a bit close to your chest, mate. Pull that out on day 3 this year, and you might get more bang for your buck.
Yeah, fingers crossed, though.
Final thing I want to talk to you about is the acceptance, I suppose, we've had of ABT moving into the new net rules for next year. We've got Shimano's Environet on as a sponsor next year. We put out the information early that we're going to have a maximum mesh size for the fish. And I know I've been using it. You've been using the blue Environets now, which I think are the gold standard of fish care when it comes to looking after your fish. And I've noticed a lot of anglers are already, when they're upgrading their nets, are doing the right thing. I'm buoyed by the fact that the competitors themselves are sharing the commitment to fish care, because that's one of the things that's going to allow us to tournament fish a lot further into the future if we're policing ourselves when it comes to doing the right thing by the fish that we catch and release.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're right. Like the Shimano Environet is the gold standard, and it has been for a long time. And when it comes to fish care, that the new rules do lend themselves to being sort of more fish friendly, which is good, not just for our sport, but for the fish as well. Just general fish care, which is good to see. And I think just going forward into next year that everyone's going to be running those Shimano Environets, and I think it'll just be good for the sport and the community moving forward.
Wonderful, mate. And you're not at the Australian Open this year. You're committed with work. Give me an estimate of what weight someone's going to need for 3 days to win the Open. It's ranged from that 10.5 to 13.5 kilos over the years. You think it's a big year or a little year this year?
I'd
3
say
days on the harbour.
probably, yeah, 3 days on the harbour. I think if you manage to get 3.5 each day, I think you'd be right up there. Easier said than done. Three consecutive days on the one venue is always difficult. I was personally a fan of having that off day on the Hawkesbury as well, just things up.
Yep.
But it's Sydney in itself is a great venue, and I'm thinking if you could get sort of 3.5 each day, I think right up there with a chance.
Yep, I always consider it like the test match. The pitch deteriorates, and by the time the third team's batting on it, you're struggling a little bit. So I think that's what makes it exciting. There's only 2 3-day events that we run each year. One of them's the grand final, and one of them's the Open. So we love 3 days in a row of fishing. It's 50% more fishing than we do in most tournaments.
Yeah, that's right. And I do remember you saying one year, Steve, you're not going to win the Australian Open fishing one boat. You're not going to get 15 fish off one boat.
Yep.
And that's very true. It's a very tactical event because you do have 3 days plus a pre-fish day. So those fish are getting pressured for 4 consecutive days. And by that third tournament day, you need something up your sleeve. You need something a little bit different, or some clean water or some fresh fish, just to make that difference, because you're not going to be able to go and catch all your fish off the same pontoon or the same boat or whatever it may be for all 3 days. So it's very challenging, not just from, it's a very mentally challenging event as well. Just been focused for so long on the water. It's, hats off to the guys that do it, and year in, year out. And, whoever wins that event certainly earns it, that's for sure.
That's it, because once you get off the water, after your mentally challenging day on the water, you're then challenged by Sydney traffic and a boat on the back of your car. And so that's the added bonus. The worst traffic in Australia on the skinniest roads to navigate your boat through. So I agree. For us out-of-towners, it's really daunting when you're on the land, and then you get on the water, it's like a happy place.
Yeah, that's right. And then off the back of that, obviously, all the competitors are rolling into the Hawkesbury ABT as well. So it is quite a long week for those guys.
Well, that's when you're going to pounce, isn't it? You're going to come into the Hawkesbury fresh. Guys like you, and I remember last year it was Michael Colatouris, I think, was like fresh anglers on there did really well, because the rest of us were just like catching our breath from the Open, and bang, we're straight into it. So I think there's a bit of tactics in that as well, mate.
Oh, it sounds like an excuse, Stephen. So, but
it's a reason. It's a reason to shine, mate. I'd like to get warmed up before we get cracking on the Hawkesbury, mate. You are the man to beat there. Thank you for your time today, and thanks for joining us on ABT Live.
Thanks for having me.
For the new Certate, There'll be one or two of those given away at the Oz Open. We're going to talk about that in a while tonight. But hey, let's talk a little bit about AOY. You want to do something controversial tonight. You want to talk about AOY. Let's talk about it.
I got tired.
Then you tried to bail out of it in the last segment.
I think there's been talk on the ground, maybe, and Healey just sort of raised it then in his interview about, for example, we had a WA event on the weekend. It had 10 boats in it. The winner gets 100 points. The guy who comes last gets 90 points. How do you compare that to when we have a 60, 70 boat field in Victoria, like the weightings? Like, what has been your thought process going into AOY?
So my thought process after running this for 25 years is, I don't mind that the smaller events are easier pickings for AOY points, because what do we want to happen with smaller events? We want them to become bigger events. And a smaller event's never going to attract more people to it because the prize money is exceptional. It might attract them to it because the fishing's really good, but the AOY points, or in the old days rankings points as well, were a big allure for anglers to maybe go to that event. You know, I'm pretty sure that Cromo wasn't going to line up and go to Albany just for the fishing, even though the fishing ended up being exceptional for Cromo over there. So I don't mind it. I think if you want to put in the effort and go to the big events and to the small events, you've still won the event. You've still beaten every single other angler that's willing to put their money on the table, and the fact is that there are maybe 30 boats in WA that fish at teams events. Only 10 thought they had what it takes to win Albany, and you've beaten those 10. Good on you. So, but I can see where Mark's coming from, because he's won 2 events with 70 boats in them. With Mark's proposed system, that's 70 points for those events, and then 10 points for Cromos, or 9 points for Cromos win. I don't think either of them are particularly super fair, but globally, I don't think there's a real fair way to do it. Like, I know that in the USA and the Bassmaster Opens, it is linked to the number of people in the event, but the number of people in the event is always varying only by 10 or 20%. It doesn't vary by 700% like we have in this one. So, hey, if you've got ideas about it, throw them in the comments down there. You won't win a prize at all, but you might stimulate some discussion in the office here.
And I mean, these guys, like, you just had to look at the entry list when they first all got put up. Like, Cromo didn't sit back and go, oh, there's only 9 other competitors.
No, you probably expected there to be 20.
Like entries come in at the start. This was his plan for this year.
Yeah, he was going to fish
made no
everything.
secret
that
that
fish everything, and good on him.
He's having a big year this
year.
year.
Doing the miles, getting the smiles. That's great.
And the WA guys, vice versa, like those non-boaters, we got 2 out of the top 3 in AOY. Like, they're WA guys. They've come.
Yeah, but they got most of their points over here. So good on them. You know, hey, no matter where you're fishing, if you're doing well, you're a good fisherman and you deserve the accolades. So come on, controversial. Be controversial. Come on. How do you want to do it?
I don't like change.
Okay.
Keep it as it is.
So there you go. That was Nicole's version of talking controversially about stuff.
Oh no, I thought Healey raised it in his interview. I know there's probably been some messaging and talking behind the scenes, so let's
so the call to action is, if you've got a better way to do it, let us know. Shoot it in the comments down here. Shoot us an email. Pull us up at an event. Have a chat to it. I'm all ears for making it the best way and the fairest way to do it, that achieves the AOY aims but also achieves ABT's aims of increasing the participation in tournaments, because that's what the sponsors pay us to do, have tournaments that suck more people in and get them addicted to tournament fishing so they can buy more boats, motors, trailers, tackle, rods, reels. That's my job, to make you spend money on stuff that are wants, not needs.
Alright, done.
Well, who do we talk to next? We're going to jump onto the Oz Open.
Yeah, it's the big showdown for our Brim event for the year. The Daiwa Australian Open. Daiwa have gotten on board with this event the last few years. We've seen it. It was a weighing event, then it went fully on the tournament app.
On the app during COVID.
And
then we worked out how much people love the live scoreboard. So then,
and they love the live weigh-in. So we've created that hybrid event working in with the crew at Daiwa. So we have those estimator scoreboards with the anglers all sort of working out and guessing their weights of their fish, popping them through. So we have live scoreboards during the day, and all culminating in that live weigh-in each afternoon at Drummoyne Sailing Club.
Now, you're going to struggle with the amount of work that's on next week, but it was your idea to up that live coverage this year. What have you got planned?
So sort of building on what we did last year with Andrew Deeth, we had him on site helping us each day. We've got Grayson Fong flying in from Brisbane. So the event's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Grayson and Dave Fan from Daiwa will be with me at the back of Drummoyne Sailing Club on Wednesday and Thursday. And we'll be doing some live shows from the club, mid-session updates, getting some feedback from anglers on the water. We have so many observers. A big thank you to all the guys that nominated to come out and observe with us next week. For the Open, I think by the time we get to the last day of the Open, we've pretty much got a full field of observers. No boats will be fishing out there by themselves.
Yep.
So we'll be getting lots of video content and updates and feedback and photos all from the water, just to create that while the event's going on update for you guys that are all stuck at work watching what's going on in Sydney Harbour.
Yes, just like I like you spending money on wants not needs, I like you watching ABT coverage rather than working. So at your boss's expense, I welcome you to participate as much as possible in the live coverage. See, I'm unashamedly a fishing promoter. That's how we do it. But we have talked to a few guys moving forward. Tom Slater from Daiwa, I call him the perpetual bridesmaid in the Open. Someone wrecked his party last year. I loved it. But he's due, and so let's have a chat to Tom about some of the incentives we have, some of the great prizes, and some of the pre-tournament doc talk about the Daiwa Australian Open this year. So here he is, the man from Daiwa that is probably responsible for most of the cool tackle, which is on the high place boats on the weekend. Tom Slater, Daiwa Brim Australian Open. Can you go one spot better this year?
I'd like to think I can. I don't love my chances. Every year it seems everyone's getting better at fishing the harbour, and I certainly have not been pre-fishing at all. In fact, I don't think I will be actually able to fish on the official pre-fish day. So I'll be going in a little bit blind, but we've had all this rain down in Sydney, so it might level out the playing field a little bit, and it might be really good. So fingers crossed.
There is a thing we call at ABT called sponsor karma, which rears its head all of the time. Daiwa angler using Daiwa product. Let's look at last year's result. Top 3 boats all using your in-feet rods that you designed. 100% in-feet rods. That must have been satisfying for you.
Yeah, it is. It's super satisfying to see everyone fishing the in-feet rods, not just at the Open, but throughout all the ABT events. We've really kind of hit that market really well, and the guys certainly seem to be loving the in-feet rods, whether it's the entry level or the mid or the expensive one. It's been super satisfying to see over the past few years everyone jumping onto the in-feet rods. Have certainly been super popular.
I think testament to the faith that people have in the tackle that you guys designed is the fact that you gave away at the grand final last year. Everyone got the recyclable Daiwa bag with 2 new model Bait Junkie soft plastics in there and some other bits and pieces. But there were literally a third of the field had those baits tied on, tried, untested, and were throwing them in the grand final and kicking ass on them. Like, that's how it's rare for someone to get a bit of tackle on the night before the tournament and then use it as their confidence bait, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's you probably couldn't have asked for a better launch for those new plastics, especially the little 295 flick.
Yeah.
For Tucker to win the non-boater grand final on one and everyone to be using them at the grand final there was awesome. So yeah.
Well, and it's rolled on to Jesse Roten won St Helens from the back of the boat using the flicks. He had that great footage that he gave us for the highlights. So it seems like it's a section of the market that you didn't have anything really to fit it now, but what you've made has fit it perfectly. And I say, go ABT sponsors, take all of the market.
Well, fingers crossed, mate. They work for me on Sydney Harbour. I'll take that.
There we go. So let's talk a little bit about Daiwa's investment in the Open. It's an event that you'd sponsored way back in the past and sort of let it go, but you've come back recently and been the Open sponsor for several years now, and you've invested some good coin in it, and we've invested in the technology to improve the coverage, to have this hybrid style event. Take us a little bit through about Daiwa's theory, why that hybrid style event is so good for both anglers and spectators.
Yeah, that's something, I guess, we've been supporting the Open on and off for a long time, but certainly for the last few years, it's something that I'm very passionate about. I really love fishing the Open, and anyone that's fished ABT for a long time, the Open is the pinnacle of the Brim calendar. So it's certainly one that we wanted to be involved in. And I think the Open suits that hybrid event in terms of trying to have the public engagement from the live scoreboard. We know that gets viewed a lot of times, thousands of times per day when we run out tournaments. But from an angler perspective, nothing beats the dramatic finish of popping your bag on the scales and winning or losing by 10 grams like we've seen over the years. So that hybrid event, I think, suits the Open really well because it's a single boater-only tournament, and it's generally a little bit smaller field, so we can really highlight that drama of the live scoreboard with the commentary we've done over the years. We did the live show a few years ago. We've had those great highlights like Michael coming back with that giant fish right at the end. So the Open is really that perfect event to really catapult that hybrid event into the spotlight.
Now, I think moving it back to 3 days on Sydney Harbour also, to me, it makes it like a test match, not like a one-dayer, because we all sort of half dread going out on that heavily flogged arena that's had 3 days of pressure on it, but guaranteed someone always finds a muddleload of fish on the last day. And we've had winners come from up to 10th place to win the Open. So, it's literally is, if you've caught a limit a day and you're within that 1.5 kilos of the leader, you are 100% in with the shot of winning the Open. And I think that adds to the excitement. Anyone can, on day one of a tournament, can bang a 5 kilo bag on the scales, but it is so much harder to do on day 3, but it is so much more valuable on day 3 if you can do it. And we all remember in the past guys like Graham Franklin, the late Greg Lee, just putting these 5 kilo bags on the scales and just winning Opens from the middle of nowhere. It wasn't like the pedestrian boring win last year of just, a couple of 3.5 kilo bags a day got the job done. Well, hopefully there's some fireworks this year and we see someone, really tear away with it. Now, your coverage is always been, we do the ABT side of it, but Daiwa does your own side of it, following your anglers. Who are you following this year in the Open?
Yeah, I think we've penciled in to follow Cromwell around for the 3 days. So Pato is going to jump on with Mark Rompton, obviously previous Open winner. He's had some really good results. He's on a bit of a roll in that ABT regular season events this year. So yeah, fingers crossed Cromwell can do it again for a second Open title.
So it's going to be two comments about that. One, Pato is going to love having a boat with a windscreen in it where he can hide in behind when it gets rough and nasty. But two, it's going to be the challenge for Pato is to decipher what Cromo's jumbling, mumbling. Cromo's head goes 200 miles an hour. His mouth goes about 100 miles an hour, and there's a gap there. And we just need to tell us what you're actually doing, Cromo, without the fluff. So that's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be good. I think the last time we filmed Cromo, he was leading after 2 days, and I think he didn't have a good third day. So, fingers crossed he can string 3 good days together and bring it home this year and shoot the pursuit for the Daiwa YouTube channel. So,
from your own point of view, you're sort of talking yourself down, but this year especially, you've always been up there in ABT events, Bass and Brim. Always getting limits, always being up there. I just think that if you get that, it's been rough weather, dirty water. If you get that wash pattern going, I'm thinking you're a real high chance of being up there. So remind us how many Opens and qualifiers you've won in the past.
I've won 1 Brim qualifier and 1 or 2 Bass qualifiers.
And how many second places?
Heaps.
So I think this is the year that Tommy's going to become a finisher and not a starter.
I'm good. If we had 1 day tournaments, I reckon I would have won like 7 comps by now.
Yes, yeah. So now is that for you? Is that a strategy thing? Do you go too hard on your fish too early and you don't save anything? What do they say in the Water Boy? Because he didn't hold anything back. It's like, are you going too hard? Is it a strategy or just a luck thing?
I don't think so, to be honest. I actually don't kind of overthink comps too much. I do comps because I really like getting away from the office for a weekend and seeing everyone. And look, to be honest, the fishing is just a bonus. So I kind of catch as many as I want to and have fun each day. I don't try and overthink too much. If it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah,
that's what I've kind of noticed over the years. When you're meant to win comps, you win comps. You can't do anything wrong. When it's not your time, you lose the fish at the side of the boat, or or just someone outfishes you that's had a crazy day.
That's right. When it's their time to win a comp.
Yeah, exactly. So no, look, I'm always the one of I'd rather have heaps of top 5s and top 10s and be known as the consistent angler than do a lot of wins and then also bombs. So
yeah. Now, speaking of prizes for the event, Daiwa always goes over and above to make sure the competitors and the observers are really well looked after. From the observer side, we've got observer packs that Dave's putting together for the guys. They'll have a smattering of Daiwa product there for coming and helping out. And we've got full observer fields basically for all 3 days. It's fantastic. But from the angler side, like the Lucky Door prize at the briefing when we all have dinner at Drummoyne Sailing Club is an Exist and AGS in-feet, which is worth nearly $2,000. Like crazy good just for turning up to the briefing. But then half a dozen checks or cash prizes for the top 6, but then down to 10th, it's like decreasing value Daiwa outfits. So 1 in 3 anglers is going to go home with sort of awesome product or double or more their money. I think it's one of the best percentage payouts and high payout events in the Aussie calendar, which is, I think, one of the reasons why anglers like it as well. The chance of them walking home with something isn't 1 in 5; it's like 1 in 3 of having a good finish.
Yeah, for sure, and certainly there's not many people that would get that Exist AGS in-feet outfit and not put it to use the next day during the comp at the if they win it on the briefing nights.
Hope it comes with some fluorocarbon or raids, so they can pull it up. And so the big question is, though, if Tommy Slater wins that outfit, does it get redrawn?
I assume it does. Yeah.
There you go. So let's take all the Daiwa anglers out of it, and there's even better chances of winning it. So yeah, no, it's a good night. Everyone gets together. We all have dinner at the Des Moines Sailing Club there. We'd have our briefing. We do our green screen backgrounds where you're looking like an NRL player. It's a lot of fun and a great event. Now, a big shout out to Nicole, who's behind the scenes helped put all of that stuff together. She's laminating observer cards at the moment to tell them all the things to do and getting it all organised. Like, she's the backbone that pulls it together. And if we sit there in a week's time saying it's been a great open, then I think she's got a lot to take credit for there, because as well as Daiwa's brainchild, I think Nicole really loves that event during the year. You know, the Hawkesbury event after it, which is a massive event as well. It's got nearly twice the number of boats in it. I think it nearly has got twice the number of boats now. That's sort of going to be the come down off the open, but still a massive event. So big week of brimming coming up in Sydney.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the Hawkesbury actually is going to, I think it's going to turn it on for the qualifier there. I think with this rain, and well, to be honest, I think both arenas could fish really, really well. We've had a lot of rain in the last kind of week and a half in Sydney.
Yep.
And we had big rain just this past Saturday. During the day, we had like 80 or 90 mils where I live here, which is close to Middle Harbour.
Yep.
And I think that's just far enough out from the comp if we get it's beautiful weather today. And I think it'll just give that nice flush. There'll be heaps of bait in the system.
Yep.
And I think the fish will actually chew their heads off. So I think it'll be a really good couple of days on the harbour, and then follow it up with the weekend on the Hawkesbury.
Well, I think the Hawkesbury, if you get just post-flood Hawkesbury, you get 4 kilos just given to you if you go to a wash and start throwing a crankbait around, don't you? It's like, I remember the last time it happened, I remember like non-boaters were catching 3 fish for like, 4 kilos in the...
Yeah, I think the last one, maybe the last real like kind of post-flood washy Hawkesbury was the one Warren Carter one from Lion Island, maybe.
Yep.
And I think I came second. That's when I was in I borrowed Alex Roy's little tinny from the Gold Coast when I lived in Brisbane and drove it down there. And I was out there amongst all the bigger boats in the little tinny. And yeah, that was throw crankbaits into the wash and pull 36 forkers out hand over fist. It was great.
Yeah, I remember that. And I remember you saying this Hawkesbury River, it's amazing. And I said, dude, just wait till it's not in flood and you can't do it. And what's the case when it's not in flood? It's not as easy, is it?
No, not quite as good. No.
Well, Nate, appreciate your participation and Daiwa's participation as the naming sponsor of the event. We look forward to keep on growing it bigger and bigger. And who knows, maybe this is the year you get your name on that Greg Lee Memorial Trophy.
Fingers crossed. I think maybe we'll try the no pre-fish pattern this year. We'll go no pre-fish. We'll go cold turkey straight into day one. And I might pull the big ones on day one instead of pre-fish. So we'll see.
Bingo. Good plan, mate. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a few days.
No worries.
Oh, there we go. So Daiwa's putting the pressure on Mark Crompton.
Yep. And Tommy's just not even pre-fishing, he's just going free balling.
He'll go win this event, you watch.
Yep.
So talking about names and pressure being put on, we've got the trophy here. What's the trophy's name?
It is the Greg Lee Memorial Trophy, but we call him Greg. Greg Lee, of course, from Bing Lee family, great sponsor of the Open in the early days. Loved sponsoring it, loved fishing it. Helped to keep going in the early days, especially after the GFC when money was pretty sort of tight. There was a few years we didn't run it here. That was sponsorship reasons. There was another year we didn't run it on the side here in 2020 because of that 5-letter word. Yep, give you the flu. But ever since, it's been strong and growing. So this is the trophy. There are 2 matching trophies. This is the Australian Open trophy, and we have a matching one for the Queensland Open. The Queensland one's called Jeff. Aaron Sharp named that one. This one's called Greg. It's not written on the bottom, but it is written there, the Greg Lee Memorial Trophy. Interesting, the Barra one's called Liam. We've got names for all of these fellas.
Depends who you let name it.
But the history of the event is it started here back in 2004 when it was an exhibition tournament held with the four-wheel drive and fishing show in Darling Harbour. So we had the big reef science tack back then. We had 1,000 people watching the weigh-ins. The boats, we'd push the boats in after the people were out in the water, because everyone had single axle trailers. You could push a boat in. It wouldn't happen nowadays. And that was in the early days, and I think it was a $1,000 entry fee and $10,000 first place for some of those. So from 2004 through till here in 2010, it was a teams event. So you and your mate paid the money, went fishing and did it. So 2011, it turned into a singles event, and Chris Hickson won the first one of those in 2011. 2012, 2013, Ian Cito, brother of Greg Cito from Daiwa, did it. A few years after that, there were no events. Then 2017, I won it. 2018, Cromo won it for the first time. 2019, Jamie McEwen. 2020 was COVID. 2021 was that epic win from Michael Colatouris, who caught the 1.6 kilo fish in the last hour to get it done. Jamie McEwen won it for a second time in 2022, and then last year I won it. So one person's won it 3 times. We've got a couple of guys have won it twice, Jamie McEwen and Ian Cito, and plenty of guys have won it once. So it's always a bit of the narrative of what happens. Is someone going to win it for a multiple time, or is it going to be a newbie win the Open?
And we always talk to the person that won the event the last time round. And so that was you. How are you feeling? A little bit of pressure? You're the only one to have your name on that trophy 3 times. Are we excited for next week?
Always excited.
What's in your head?
I've done a lot of fishing this year. I've done all of the Bream and Bass tournaments. So I've done a lot of time in my boat. Very comfortable in my boat now. It's the Bass Cat's sort of dialed in. It's just got a brand new motor on it. It's done its hours during the week up at Mondrian, so it's sort of broken in now. I just see it as an opportunity to go light line fishing for some bigger than average fish. Around here, 30 forker is a kicker. Down in Sydney, a 30 forker is mandatory. Every one of those 15 fish had better be over 30 fork, or you ain't even going to win the Open. So, no pressure at all. The only time I have a bit of pressure, and it was in my highlights last year, is when I've hooked up a fish and I know it's the last day and this is the one. If I land this one, I'm probably going to win the Open. That's when it's like, ooh, I'm going to back off the drag a little bit and just take it easy. You prepare all you can, you tie all the knots, you make sure you have all the lures, but on the day you've just got to land all the stuff, and when that fish is on the line is when I get a bit nervous. I've had fish in the past where I've had kilo plus fish on and I've gone too hard on them, or I haven't retied the nick leader, or I haven't replaced the hook and I've lost them, and I'm just going, that's a $5,000 mistake right there. So yeah, no pressure, just have fun when we go fishing.
Well, there's, at the moment, as of this afternoon, 32 other competitors that are looking to put their name on this trophy this year. I've got the lineup just up on the screen at the moment. So we've got some Victorian anglers coming up, Mario Vukic and Jesse Roten, representing Victoria. Whole stack of New South Wales anglers. And then there's a few Queenslanders, yourself, Jamie McEwen, Chris Greensill, Blake O'Grady, all making the trip down south again this year to try and take it out.
And I see some names from the Sydney team scene there, like Zeus. He's won a few events down there. He's coming to fish the Open this year, and look, as I said in the interviews before, guys like we've got Ben Breckenridge there. Yep, he was one of my observers in previous years. Some of the observers step up to fish the event. So great mix of people. 100% anyone fishing that event has got the caliber of angler to win it. It's just is their strategy good, and are they going to fall apart under the pressure?
Because it's in everything. It's you fishing by yourself. You've got to think about everything on the boat.
You've got to have it not break down.
All your gear's got to be in tip-top shape for 3 days. It's emotionally draining, mentally draining, physically draining. And
it's Sydney, so it's scary. It's scary towing a boat around. I must admit, when we used to put in at Wharf Road each morning, there's a bit at Ryde where my 2.5 metre boat trailer is wider than the road, so I have to drive in 2 lanes and cop it from every cranky driver going past me. But hey, I'm taking those 2 lanes because I'm scraping my wheels up the bank or running over a pedestrian. Sydney can be a daunting place if you don't live there all the time, and that's just part of the excitement of the Open. It's also why a lot of us out of towners go and set up at Narrabeen. We know our way to the ramp, we know our way, and when we finish the Open, it's only a 5-minute drive up the road to Hawkesbury. So great week at Bremen. There's going to be some great bags caught, great highlights made, and you're going to make some great highlights during the event. So you've got the observers working for you, you've mobilised the team, and we love the Open time of the year.
So speaking of the team, we're sort of extending the team out again this year. We mentioned earlier we have Grayson Fong flying in, representing Daiwa down in Sydney for the Open this year. We got Dave Fan from head office coming out to the event site, so that's Wednesday and Thursday. We're going to put together a bit of a live show, and we actually caught up with Grayson earlier in the week, just to get his thoughts and gauge his excitement and plans for next week.
Yeah,
should we roll it?
He was peaking. Let's hear it. So here he is. The secret is out. ABT's secret mystery commentator for day 2 and 3 of the Open, Grayson Fong. You are a master from the back of the boat, and it's great to have you involved with the Daiwa Brim Australian Open to offer us some expert commentary, because let's face it, you've been in the boat with a lot of these guys before.
Mate, it's great to be on board. Like, to experience the whole, streaming of the Australian Open is just awesome. Like, over the years, you get to watch it from home, if you're at work and you're in another state or something like that. But, to actually be close to the action and delivering that, it's just going to be unreal. Like, super excited to see the different anglers this year. Like, we got 31 anglers coming through. So, there's a lot of names in there that, we haven't seen for a couple of years, but that's exciting. That's really good to see those guys come through.
Looking through that entry list, Grayson, how many of them do you reckon you've actually spent time with fishing? Like, I know I've fished with you a couple of times in the back of the boat,
yes,
but you would have spent a lot of time with some of these guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys in that field that have supported the ABT tour for so long, which has been wonderful. Like, and I've had the opportunity to fish with most of those guys. One I haven't yet is Mario Vukic. I'm busting to get on the back of the boat with the Duke. I think him in Victoria would be probably my bucket list non-boater draw. So I don't know who I have to pay for next year to get that one, but we'll see. So, but looking forward to seeing how they perform. Like, Mario's just one of those fishers that he's good on every arena. To win up the grand final up at the Clarence, got a big bag day 3 at the Australian Open last year. So, he's just so unpredictable. But to see the guys that support the tour, like Chris Hickson and stuff like that, that's it's great. It's really good.
Let's dig into Mario a little bit. Like, let's look at Mario's results from last year. He's one of the rare Victorians. Mario, Cam, Jesse, the Pete Bruckels and Pete Nords of the world are probably the 5 Victorians that get out of state to support ABT. But Mario's results last year: day 1, 2-point-something kilos; day 2, 3-point-something kilos; day 3, biggest bag of the whole event, 4-point-something kilos. Like, he's going to be one to watch this year, because he is learning that arena at a great rate of knots.
Well, I think that's probably proving to be like quite a dangerous, commodity. Like, if you're learning on an arena on the water in 3 days, it's just one of those things. It's the thing that stands the best anglers out in ABT, I believe, is memory. Like, so whoever's got the best memory and can remember what they did in previous events, and who won where, and just like their recall is very good. It makes them quite dangerous in as events go on. So especially annual events.
Now, I don't know if you're like me. I'm one of the guys that goes to a party and gets introduced to someone. I can't remember their name, but I can tell you what crankbait I caught, what size bream in this snag around the corner in the Lane Cove River in 2006.
Yeah,
fishermen are sort of like that, aren't they? We're sort of idiot savants, because we can remember anything to do with fishing and nothing to do with basically anything else in our lives.
Well, I guess it's a creature of habit kind of thing, and that's what makes anglers good. Is that they find a recipe, and they actually grind that recipe until they can refine it, and whether it's put on any arena, it doesn't matter whether it's in Tassie or up in the Tweed or something like that. They'll hear about things being thrown, they'll give it a go, but then they revert back to their favorites, and then they master that. They apply that onto a different arena, and I find if you can do that, then you've got the confidence with your gear. B, you've kind of worked out what the system needs out of the angler, as opposed to just trying to have a guesswork on the arena. So going back to Mario, he has refined techniques that he uses in Victoria, but who was to say that he was going to win the grand final slow rolling a jackal chubby down a rock wall, as opposed to him using a grub on a 1/16 or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's his diversity is great, and that's a lot of the anglers have that in this field, so that's fantastic.
I suppose that's one of my comments about the Australian Open, especially on Sydney Harbour. Now it's back to the one venue arena. We have seen it won all sorts of ways over the years. We've seen it won a couple of times by Jamie McEwen fishing crabs down in the lower system on sort of pre-spawn fish. We've seen it won on top waters in the past. We've seen it won on spider grubs on jig heads. We've seen it run on standard jig heads. We've seen it won on crankbaits. Basically, no matter where you are in Australia, if you have a technique and can travel with it, the chances are you're going to do pretty well with it in Sydney Harbour. And then sometimes not having that history on the arena is an advantage, because you're not driving past every rock in the system saying, I've caught a kegger there, caught a kegger there, caught a kegger there. If you are really focused and are just locked in on one area, that's what makes anglers so dangerous in the days of the Open. Now, we talked to Tom Slater earlier and had the real conversation about having the 3 days plus the practice day on the one arena. By the fourth day, a lot of the easy fish are being picked off in Sydney Harbour. So historically, we've seen great bags come in on day 3 of the Open, and guys come from out of nowhere to win the event. And I think that's one of the exciting things about the Open is who's going to be the angler or anglers who make those really big moves on the final day. Like last year, I was lucky enough to win, but it was done with some pedestrian bags, just 3.5 to 3.9 kilos a day. And it was just a slow accumulation. But in the past, we've seen those 5 and 6 kilo bags come in on the last day. And if you've got your limits each day, man, you're sort of never safe. You never have a safe lead on that joint. And I think that's the exciting narrative that we're going to see you tease out of this event, and we're going to see through those live scoreboards. I think the live scoreboards, if you see the background of how many people watch those live scoreboards and people watching ABT live now, it's all going to be a hub on the front of the ABT website. You can click the link, look at the live scoreboards. Man, it's like, I reckon it gets hit as much as the Test cricket matches. I always have the Test cricket scores in the corner of my computer. If I was watching, I'd have the live scoreboards on the top of my screen, just like if I was watching Carl Jochimson in a Bassmaster Elite event. It really does turn fishing into a spectator sport, and that's what I'm excited about. Getting yourself, but also getting the people that we're going to reach excited and involved in this iconic event.
I think that's the transition that we want with brimming in Australia. Is like, we've been around for so long now that being able to bring it into the anglers that can't be at the event, or to fans around in different states, bringing it live so we can actually give them the opportunity to go on a journey with our anglers and kind of get a feel of like how days play out. Like, is it a slow bite for everyone, and all of a sudden there's a bite period at 12 o'clock or something like that. So having that kind of in their lounge rooms or available online is essentially like just getting people up to speed and keeping them on the dial, and the whole social media gratification now is like even better for us fishermen out on the field, so we can bring it into people's lounge rooms.
Just give us a tip. You're going to be the expert commentator there.
Yep.
You've got plenty of Daiwa anglers fishing. You've got Tom Slater. You've got Mark Crompton. You've got Chris Hickson fishing. And
Jesse,
I'm sure there's
Jesse Roten.
Jesse, yes. Taka, exactly. Don't forget Taka. Who is your tip for going to be the highest placed Daiwa angler this year? I want to hear it from you first.
Well, I've got no favourites, but I know Big Tom is ready for a win. He is ready for a win. He's been knocking on the door. It's just he has that consistency, and going back to what we were talking about, like just having that memory about what happened in previous events. Tom has that ability to apply himself, and it's just comes down to crucial bites. I think that separates Tom from winning at times. Or lost fish. So they're going to stick one day for him, and I think it's just going to surprise everyone. I think it's quite interesting. Like for all the Daiwa anglers there's some really like talented guys. Like you got former like Mark Cromo's a former winner, so you can never rule him out. And his his accumulation of spots through the harbour over the years has become, much better and better. And then we've got AOY non-voter from last year, Taka Kawasaki. So, he's a Sydney boy as well. So I think he's, if he doesn't get in the way of his own head, he should be right. But
that's it with Taka, isn't it? He struggled a bit last year, and then it all came together for him on the last day. I think the time on the water now has helped him make better decisions.
And I think too, like what you were saying before about having almost like too many decisions, too many options, and then narrowing it down as the days go on. That's crucial. Whoever bridges that gap in narrowing down to how to get their bag and find the bigger fish, whoever does that the fastest is going to hold the consistent bag. So, obviously last year you did that, worked out the formula, throwing musses on docks and stuff like that. You cracked the pattern early because you were on light line and, working it that way. So then that gave you that consistent bag, all through each 3 days. So I think if whoever cracks that system the earliest will set up a good final day, definitely.
Yeah. I think because the harbour changes every year, we've seen Jamie McEwen win it twice on that reef down the front. Yep. Last year he couldn't even catch a limit on it, and I don't think he even caught a fish on it on one of the days. And that's how much these arenas change. I know Jamie ended up catching his fish crankbaiting boats, and it's so diametrically different to what he expected to happen when he was there. And of course, you give the field a head start. You might catch great bags for the last 2 days, but you're out of it. We always say you can't win the Open on the first day. But
you can lose it.
You can lose it. So not bringing the limit in on one of the days is definitely, signing the box to not have the chance on that last day. So, look, we're looking forward to it, mate. We're looking forward to your involvement in it. And with the smarts of Nicole putting it back together, yourself, Dave Fan, maybe Deethy, getting that expert commentary team together is going to make it great for all of you guys watching live now, but also the broader breeding community. So thanks for joining us tonight.
No worries.
See you in Sydney next week, mate, and you'll have
good. I'm looking forward to it.
Big week next week. Looking forward to working with Grayson and Dave down in Sydney. I think it's going to be a really cool couple of days at Drummoyne Sailing Club.
I think it was funny. You were trying to put the pressure on me to defend the title, but I'm putting the pressure on you to make a good show. There's a lot more shit that can go wrong for you than go wrong for me.
I was thinking, oh my goodness. It's all right. We got the 18 going. We'll get it done.
That's it. Winner, prize winner, got all these Atomic Hards Vibe 60s giveaway, 3 spills of lines braid. Who was it, Nicole, and where were they from?
Tonight, watching on YouTube, it was Philip Page tuning in from Newcastle.
All right, so if you're watching on YouTube, Phil, then skip over to our Facebook page, to Australian Bass Tournaments. Send us a message with your postal details, and we will get this stuff in the mail to you on Friday. We're not going to do it on Anzac Day. That's tomorrow. Go to do it on Friday, and hey, if it's express post, within about 3 weeks, you'll get it. That's how good Australia Post is. They smash it. Harsh but fair. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks for putting the show together tonight.
No worries. Thanks for joining me.
Let us know in the comments also, do you like more discussion? Do you want more controversy? Even though what you said wasn't real controversial. Or do you like more recorded stories? Is it too long? Is it too short? We love all your feedback. Put it down in the comments there and let us know exactly what you think. We can change if we want to.
Cool. I think that's all from us tonight. Philip Page on YouTube. Send us your address details. Let's get this prize pack to you. Otherwise, let's go pack a van.
Pack a van, and the sun comes up tomorrow morning, lest we forget.
Good night, everyone. See you from Sydney next week.